to Wedding Mayhem. Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
And we've had loads of messages.
About what?
About, how are you? How's your week going?
We haven't.
We have.
I want to see him.
Have? Yeah, I've got them.
Sorry, I sound like a 50-year-old man. I don't know what a 50-year-old... just sound like a man. Full of cold.
I know, you're full of it again.
Oh, full of it.
How many colds is this?
This is number 7.
Yeah. It must be a pregnancy.
I don't know.
related.
My immune system is just shit this pregnancy. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Apart from the baby's all good. But yeah, my body is just had it.
But we have a top tip for all those pregnant mums.
What's the top tip?
Your tissue.
Oh no, because that's probably just a Lauren problem. No one else has probably got this problem. But
you have the solution. I bet they have.
And it's my mum's solution. But basically, I don't know if it's where my bra's rubbing or chafing, as old fat shamer told again, digging me out. But I've got like a burn in between my boobs and it really, really hurts. And my mum was like, just get a nice bit of kitchen towel, just pop it in between. But because I've put it under my bra, it stops my bra rubbing on my skin. Yeah. I'm just very sensitive.
Yeah, it will be the friction.
Yeah. Like that. But it's really taking. I'm going to now get proper padding. I might even get the shoe pads. The gel, the cooling gel. Yeah, and you could get the little eye things that you put on there. That would work. Yeah. Well, I knew it was bad because this morning, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I was in the kitchen collecting my tea. Oh, the eyes are starting already. I've not been able to wear eye makeup for 2 days because of the draining eyes. John makes me a tea every morning, so I came downstairs to collect it, and he was making his lunch, and I keep taking the piss out of him because he keeps getting little baby bells, like a proper kid little lunch.
I've got those in my fridge. I love them.
And like he'll be annoying, and like he'll do it with like a cold can of Coke, and he'll go like that. But you know it's bad because he went like that on my chest, and I felt saying, "Please drop that a bit lower," and I'll sit there with a bit of cold cheese in my boots. Normally he gets a reaction out of it, and all he saw was my eyes roll back like, oh. So that's how things are going in our house at the minute.
Oh, he's going to be slapping bits of ham on you soon.
Rather the ham.
It's bigger, isn't it?
What? Oh no, the eyes have started.
Married at First Sight, Australia, anybody?
Started watching it last night.
Oh my God. It's kicking off.
The most beautiful couple I've ever seen, the ones that know each other.
2 sets of them.
Oh, thanks for the spoiler. Oh. I only watched one episode.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fake crying.
I keep seeing memes about that.
Yeah, go.
Oh, what about the awful sister?
But she used to date Tim. Was it Tim? Lucinda's best friend that then came back with the other girl. Oh God, what were they called? I'm sure it's Tim.
Oh, I can't remember.
It's Tim.
She was
Jono's.
Oh, she's
Jono's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, that's
the sister.
I've never seen anything like it.
Awful.
Yeah,
absolutely awful. Anyway. Yeah, so we've got a very
terrible turn of events.
We've got to be very sensible now because we have Mark Brown, CEO and founder of Wedinsure.
Oh,
welcome.
Thank you very much for
CEO.
It's a pleasure to be here.
CID as well. Police.
It's probably the best introduction I've ever had, by the way.
But we are being serious because we are talking about wedding insurance, and these are things that we don't think about when we're getting married, when we're being caught up in the bubble of like, I'm planning a wedding and that, and you don't think of it until things do go wrong.
That's right.
Because they do go wrong.
Yeah, they do.
But you don't think that they do go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most sexy thing you're going to get for your wedding, right? Or the most interesting thing.
Oh, I see for me, because I come from insurance, so to me, turn on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring that down.
That and baby bell cheese.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's not it's not the first thing you're going to think of when you're planning a wedding, and obviously. Once you know you're getting married, it's all about the dress, it's all about the venue, it's all about the date, the catering, the entertainment, and all that type of stuff. And so obviously quite often this is probably the last thing you're ever going to think of, but the reality is it can actually have a major impact on,
There's so much money though. Why would you not insure? It makes no sense.
Absolutely.
You do it with your health. Well, not your health. Some people do.
You do.
Well, but you
pets.
people go. You've got the NHS.
Yeah.
But
I've got insurance on my bees.
There you go.
Fee insurance. I'll have to think about that one.
I'll give you an idea. Partnership.
Absolutely.
But there is insurance for everything, but I don't think you think about it for weddings.
You should do
no,
though
you
when you're
don't.
paying out that much money. Because
should-
you do it for your house.
It's your it is your deposit for your house.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a really good point. Like I always, use the analogy. Like if you went into a car and you spent £25,000 on a car, would you consider not insuring it? No,
Wouldn't drive it off the
To be
forecourt,
fair as well,
right?
if you think of like some people's houses, like contents insurance, people probably spend more on a wedding than what actual their valuables are inside
right.
the house. Do you know what I mean? Apart from your telly, unless you've got
I
like
think it's
expensive jewellery.
I don't know how to phrase it, but it's like false richness.
Yeah.
So you're putting on a show of like this is
Probably
my
one of the most
country.
expensive shows you'd ever.
This is my country manor. This is my caterers, my chef, my
who gets that?
bartenders. But in reality, you don't do that in your everyday life.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right. Yeah, no, that's right. And our average sum insured is about £26,000. So that's the average that we.
And is
insure.
that there's so many figures floating around what the average wedding is.
Yeah, that's
the cost
pretty
of
much
it.
the average we've had consistently since about 2020. It was about 24,000. And then every year we see an average increase of about 5% each year, normally because of obviously the increase
Inflation.
yeah, exactly. The cost of weddings
Yeah.
and things like that obviously go up typically by about 5-10% a year. So our average sum insured today is £26,000.
Wow.
But we cover weddings up to £100,000. Wow. So and we
What's
we
the
have
minimum?
Show me the
one
wedding.
the minimum we have is 6,000.
Okay.
So anything under 6,000 really would.
So it's up to 6,000.
Up to 6,000, yeah. And then we go all the way up to £100,000 for.
So it's a stupid question, but if your wedding is say 4,000, can you still cover yourself for 6,000?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Up to
yeah.
Bring it back. I just want to get my benefits table out.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
So tell me, like standard policy, what are your main covered points?
So wedding insurance is quite comprehensive. So it's got 15 different sections of cover. So it covers a lot of things. But by far the two biggest sections of cover that you have to consider is cancellation, curtailment and rearrangement. So that's if you have to cancel the wedding due to something like, for instance, the most popular type of things that happen there are things like if the venue goes into liquidation, into administration. So
And we're seeing this a lot,
at
the moment because
it's one of our main sources of claims. Yeah.
What about one of our brides a couple of years ago? They cancelled her venue because they were turning it into hostels.
Yep.
Because the government offered them a better deal.
That's right, yes.
So they were like, you can't get married here now because it's people going to live here.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Like,
do.
right before, right on top of the wedding.
happened to my venue actually.
Yeah, really?
Third wedding. But we were the last people to get married at the venue because then they sold to a housing company.
Oh wow.
And then they had to cancel the weddings that they booked in afterwards.
It happens more frequently than
because staff are not aware of it, so they continue to take the bookings because they're under pressure and stuff like that. And they're not knowing what's happening.
No, and it's devastating because obviously, particularly, it depends on how close to the wedding that happens, right? So, if your venue goes out of business, say 6 months before your wedding, then great, you got time to organise, get another venue, same date, things like that. But if it happens a week before, that's it. You're pretty much
so we obviously knew that you were coming on, and I did put out there that we had, was there any questions, and the amount of ones that were coming back and stories coming back there, it was cancelled like the week before, 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, somebody had on the day before.
That's right.
And
we had one very, very recently like that actually. So we had one probably about 2-3 months ago. £46,000 we paid out, and that 46,000, and that was because the night before the wedding, the groom had appendicitis and was rushed into hospital.
Oh my god! So you're covered for that?
Yep.
I was literally going to ask you about that.
So in terms of the cancellation side, those are the two main things really. So it's normally due to an issue with the venue, or it's due to illness, a serious illness, or God forbid, a death of either the wedding participants or a close relative. Because we also cover, so for instance, your parents, your grandparents.
Do you underwrite them? So like pre-existing conditions. So
we don't underwrite.
Dad's got a heart problem. If he has a heart attack,
unfortunately, no. That's one of the things. In fact, probably when you're purchasing a policy, one of the main things to consider is things like that. So, for instance, if you have got a family member, or if you've got a pre-existing medical condition that has already been diagnosed, then typically you're not going to be covered for that.
Well, that's what
condition.
I thought.
You should be declaring it.
Yeah, well, and you don't have to declare it because it's just not covered. We don't do any underwriting for it, so you just can have cover as normal, and you'll cover for all the other aspects of the wedding. But if any claim or loss arose because of that specific condition that you've already got, then typically that's not going to be covered.
Right. Okay.
And would you check that, like if they don't declare it?
No.
Is it a thing that has to come from their doctor, like medical records, to prove that they
so
haven't had it before?
When you make a claim, then typically what you have to do is obviously provide like medical declarations and things like that. So for instance, if somebody's got a condition, let's say they've got a serious heart condition, and then
if like Nan's been in a hospice and then she's died or something,
in the declaration, unfortunately.
I had a question from a bride that came in, going on about parents, step parents.
Yep.
Are they covered?
Yep.
So they don't have to be blood relatives?
No, correct. Yeah. So.
Is there a point when it's just like, oh yeah, you're that close? Like, where do you draw the line?
A death, can change.
Oh, it's devastating.
Can stop a wedding.
Absolutely, and at the end of the day, when you're planning your wedding, you want it to be the perfect day. You want the people around there that you want to have there. And all of a sudden, if something happens and one person who's really important to you can't be there, it's a really upsetting time, right? So that's the type of thing that we cover. So in terms of the going back to the original question that we had about the main sections of cover, so cancellation and rearrangement, that's one of them. And the two main reasons for cancelling your wedding is usually due to the venue or due to a serious illness or and things like that. So those are the two main factors there really in terms of when you're considering. Wedding insurance, and those are by far the two biggest areas of concern that most people have. But lots of things can happen. That's the unfortunate thing, really. Yeah. So the fires at venues, floods at venues. Yeah,
well, we had that viral. I don't know whether it's the UK or US, but the makeup artist went in and put her. I think her coat or something on the bar thing that opens the sprinklers.
Oh gosh.
And the whole hotel.
Oh no!
And her dress, she was drenched and everything. Gosh. So but obviously the wet makeup artist, all her makeup was ruined.
Yeah.
I don't, and it's but these are things crazy. That you always think that everything's going to go perfectly when you plan a wedding, absolutely. But things do go wrong. And
they do, and we hope everything goes right. I mean, the great thing is in some ways. It's kind of like a shared sort of like, responsibility in the sense of, people who get married, they obviously want it to be the perfect day, right? And we want it to be their perfect day because of, if they have had to make a claim, that means something's gone wrong. And if something goes wrong, that's not nice, right? You're planning your wedding, it's stressful enough as there is. Yeah. Something happens and it's devastating, and so just having to rearrange or to organise something, and if it's like, a simple thing like a supplier going out of business or something like that, then, okay, you get another supplier. But if it's something more significant, like, you got to find a new venue or you got to find, then it can have a major impact, right? So it's one of those things that we don't want to see that happen, with anybody. But, obviously it does happen, unfortunately, and it happens more frequently than people realise. And the one thing that you don't want to be in a position of is, the last thing you want to worry about is the money aspect. Yeah. It's already stressful enough. Yeah. So at least the one thing that we can do as a company is to say, don't worry about the financial.
How quick is the payment?
Oh, this is what I was going to ask. I was dying to ask because they might not physically have the money to then pay out for someone else. Yeah. But I know with insurance and things like that, and because there's a lot you need to check. The turnaround can be. Yeah, I mean,
it depends on the nature of the claim and the complexity of the claim.
Yeah.
And then how quick they are able to provide the information that we need. So say for instance, like a supplier goes out of business, goes into bankruptcy. That's normally quite quick, right? Because they'll have a letter from the administrator to say the company's gone out of business. They'll submit that. They'll submit proof of payment. We check it all, and then we go, that's fine. We'll send, and then we'll obviously, make the settlement. So that can be as quick as like a couple of weeks, things like that,
So that's good. And I think also, if you've booked some really good suppliers and a supplier, we've just helped somebody out find a photographer, and because something's happened, and. But we know people, and people know people, and and they'll know the right people as well. Yeah. So your suppliers will rally round you, if that was to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not on your own.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the great thing. It's like, and it comes down to that timing issue, right? Which is if it happens like 6 months before the wedding, plenty of time to sort it out.
There's only so much you can do in small time frames.
If it's like, and what we saw obviously, since COVID, where you know, for the best part of about 2 years, everybody was back to back, right? You couldn't even get a venue. You couldn't, you know, everybody was booked solid. You know, they were doing weddings every single day. You know, and so if something happened then, it was much harder because they just didn't have the supplies. They were already booked. You know, so but obviously now we're getting back into the more of a normal like wedding routine, I'd say. It's a little bit easier, but it's still, you know, always one of those things you have to factor in.
So what happened during COVID? How did that work for you?
COVID was an interesting period actually, because obviously at that point when COVID hit, you know, we'd been around since about 2017, so we were quite successful, and so we were probably the second, third biggest in the market at the time, covering around about 20,000 weddings a year. And then COVID hit, and then of course every single customer wanted to speak to us, right? So we had literally 20,000. I
worked in travel insurance at the time.
Right,
it was like,
do you remember it?
Yeah, they extended my redundancy because they needed help. But
exactly that, yeah. So, you know, we just got inundated with calls.
Yeah. Wanting answers that we didn't even know as well.
No, exactly.
We didn't know.
Same as us in weddings, you know, the calls that were coming in, and we're like, I can't answer that, but I will find out.
I came out of COVID in my 30s.
Yeah, exactly.
Went in at 29, like, it was bad.
I mean, to think that, you know, even now when we think back to that period, you know, to think that we went through that period where for the best part of 2 years, you couldn't get married. It was impossible. You know? No. And normally there's 240,000 weddings a year as an average. Yeah. So you imagine that sort of like, you know.
Oh God, your heart must have been in your
in your bum is what you're going to say.
Well, yeah, because when we were in insurance and stuff. So you remember, so I did travel insurance. Remember the ash cloud and stuff like that.
That's right.
There was a lot of things where it was like an act of God.
Yes.
So it's automatically.
So where do people stand with you on stuff like that?
So COVID was an interesting time because at the time the insurers that were underwriting at the time, so initially the feeling, their stance was that this was a government act, and normally all wedding insurance policies at the time and most insurance policies cover things like, we don't cover government acts, or like you said, not an act of war, but like if the government says you can't do this, then we're not going to cover that type of thing. So that's typically what what is in most insurance contracts. Yeah. So when it first hit, that was kind of like the stance, but then over a period of time, then that softened, and then that went, well, actually, we need to go back to the original, thing that was covered, which is outbreak of infectious disease.
Yeah.
And in the policies at that time, we did cover outbreak of infectious disease. Obviously, nobody expected it to be on the scale that it was. Yeah. They expected an outbreak at a single venue.
Like norovirus.
Norovirus, exactly. Not. Oh my God! It's going to shut down for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, in the end, almost everybody got paid out in that regard, right. And then obviously, and I think this is where there was a little bit of an issue within the industry as well, because obviously at the time, a lot of, for instance, venues were refusing to refund.
We had it, and then one particular chain of hotels ended up on the news not too far away from us, and it was one of our weddings that was highlighted because
tell me later,
and they kept saying to me, what do we do? And I said, you do not cancel. You wait for them to cancel you. And and they because they couldn't do a wedding there.
No.
They physically couldn't do a wedding, but they were waiting for couples to actually cancel. And one of my brides did lose £36,000 because she said, obviously we can't get married, and they were like, as per your terms and conditions you can't, that you lose it. So my next couple were like, do not cancel, do not cancel, let them cancel you. It's terrible.
And actually, so in the end, so the Competition Market Authority actually ruled against that. So basically in that instance, what they said was, as a venue, it was basically classed as frustration of contract. Okay, so if you had a contract with the venue at the time and they were unable to hold your event due to the various restrictions that were in place at the time, either not being able to hold weddings at all or under reduced capacity, it was classed as frustration of contract, and they were legally liable to pay the couples back.
Right.
So everybody really should have got their venue costs in particular from them. Now in reality, what ended up happening was a lot of the venues understood this and went, okay, well, we're going to be very accommodating, and we're going to allow them to reschedule the wedding to another period of time where we can then hold it. And most weddings, venues were supported in that and did that.
They were fantastic.
So a lot of
and then a lot of couples who originally were going to we're going to cancel the wedding, were like, actually, there's benefits for only having 6 people.
That's right.
And then suddenly, and then the mad rush of trying to get married before everything got restricted.
During those windows. And
we were steaming like you wouldn't believe. It was just like
So that was a difficult period. I mean, it was a really tough period. And then the other thing that happened, the result of that was everybody pulled out of wedding insurance. There wasn't an insurer in the market that would insure it. So it was gone. So you couldn't even buy wedding insurance.
We actually had a company that did wedding insurance, and they did go.
Yep, almost everybody did. So John Lewis never come back into the market ever since.
I was going to say, was John? You know, when you said you were in the market at the time, if I remember rightly, was John Lewis number 1?
Yeah, so John Lewis would have been the biggest at the time. Debenhams, and then
R.I.P.
and then ourselves really, and then there was at the time, there was probably about 10 providers in the marketplace.
So they just folded doing insurance because of COVID.
Everybody stopped because there was no insurer that would touch it. So then we were the first back into the market. So this was March, obviously when COVID hit. We relaunched in October that year. So we were the first to be able to come back into the market to offer a product. Because all we said was, look, there's still a demand for this. In fact, there was a greater demand. Everybody wanted insurance, right?
Yeah, because they saw people, lose their life savings.
Yeah, I mean, literally. And that was the thing. Like in that period of March, going back to one of the things you mentioned, how it impacted. Just to give you, an idea, we sold more policies in 18 days of March than we did the entire year before. So in 18 days, so that's how it impacted as well. It was just a crazy period of time. So it was. But I think it's one of those where it had far-reaching consequences in some ways, but in some ways it was also a really good opportunity to reset
learning curves
and to reset the product and to go, okay, well, we now need to look at this product in a different way. We need to look at other aspects and things like that. So when we relaunched, obviously the only thing that we then couldn't cover was obviously COVID, right? It was possible, so it was like we can't cover lockdowns or COVID, but we cover everything else.
Yeah. But it was just one of them things. Exactly like we've never ever had anything like it. Like no one could have been prepared. Like it was catastrophic.
It was absolutely catastrophic.
What has changed in the policies now from what they were back? Because I think there is a little bit of a stigmatization of, well, I won't be covered for the COVID or that. So what's the point of having it? But there is a lot more points of having it.
Yeah, that's the thing. So obviously. So, for instance, we do now provide cover for COVID for serious illness and things like that caused by COVID. Okay, so we actually added that. So we're one of the few providers in the marketplace that you can actually add that onto your cover. So so
it's an add-on.
Yeah. So basically, you can take out the policy and go, actually, I'm still worried about COVID, or if somebody falls ill, like my gran or my mum, or somebody falls ill and they get seriously ill and they're ill from COVID. I want to, protect that. So we added that in, and then in terms of the other changes, so when we first launched, we had to put certain restrictions in place at the time that would appeal to the insurers, right? Because obviously they were worried about coming back into this market. Right? Yeah. Okay. Now the good thing is now subsequently since that, all of those are kind of been rolled back now, so that we've kind of tried to make the policy a little bit more. So for instance, a good example would be, previously there was a restriction on deposits paid, right? So if you paid your deposits more than say 3 months before you purchased the policy, you wouldn't be covered for those deposits. Only the ones paid 3 months before or after. So
but that's a question. You're backing yourself up after you've done something.
Exactly.
You do your insurance first, then you do everything.
Exactly. But now we've removed that, so we don't have that now. Some providers in the market today still have those restrictions.
Right.
So they still restrict people in terms of when they paid the deposits. So there's a number of providers in the marketplace that still have those restrictions in place. We don't. We've got rid of those.
That's really good to know, because I think people don't think about insurance until they see somebody else's venue folding on Facebook going, oh my God, that might happen to me. And then they think, oh, we need insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're still okay to insure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you can...
Is there a time cut off?
No, so actually 1 month before the wedding is the last time you can buy.
Okay.
But obviously, what we suggest is you like you said, Lauren, is... purchase it as soon as you started paying anything for the wedding, because as soon as you started paying anything for the wedding, that money's on risk.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So, and we have this all the time. So unfortunately, for instance, we had a venue that went out of business probably 3 months ago up in Scotland, and literally the venue went out of business on the Monday, and about 30 people bought the policy that week after the event, right? No. So we're like,
but sure, that's common sense. That,
but people do it.
The horse is bolted.
The amount of calls I used to get saying, I've been diagnosed with this, I need knee surgery, can I have healthcare?
Exactly.
But that's the thing, it makes also spat everywhere, they're dribbling now. I was going to say something. I know I've forgotten what it was. Oh, when I said get your insurance first, and then you're going to have to book stuff first, otherwise you're not going to know how much things cost, aren't you?
No, yeah, exactly. Normally what you do, so what we suggest is you put it once you've, so like started to pay anything and you've got some kind of date, organised, because you need to know the date, right? So,
you need the date and roughly how much it's going to...
Can you up the policy once you've taken the policy out? Okay, so if you think, oh God, I've actually... gone over, because they always go over, so exactly, they can do that. And can I ask, because one of these questions that came through was, are they insured if somebody else pays their deposit? So if mum and dad are paying for this and auntie's paying for that, so physically they've not paid for it, so there's no paper trail their end.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's very common. So that's, I would say, the vast majority of our couples are like that. So the policy covers any proven payments of deposits made by anybody for the cost of the wedding. So
for their wedding, okay.
Yeah, so it could be like, their parents, their grandparents, anybody that's made a proven financial contribution towards the cost of the wedding, or actually paid for something and got the receipts and invoices and things like that. That's
what you definitely need, receipts.
Receipts, invoices,
everything.
Contracts,
everything.
Always, I mean, that's a really important point, actually, because you'd be surprised, the amount of times we've seen, claims come in and, people have made deals just on Facebook Messenger, with...
I've got a girl that's messaged me and I went, funny enough, I said, I'm talking to somebody in insurance, and she said basically they've paid cash to everybody. I
was going to say
they've got no receipts.
People pay cash.
So top tip is you've got to either bank transfers or cards.
Yeah, card payments, bank transfers, anything with a paper trail, and also get just invoices and receipts from your suppliers, basically. And
so they can still pay cash.
Yeah, and as long as they've got
the receipt.
As long as they've got proof of the payment, the receipt of the invoice and things like that. And where possible, try to get a contract, right? Because the other thing that happens, which is sometimes unfortunate, and it's not something that's typically covered by insurance, by the way, is things like if there's a contractual dispute, right? So you've ordered, you've ordered white flowers, and on the day they turn up with yellow flowers, and you go, well, that's not what I ordered, right? So that's not something you'd claim through insurance. You'd have a contractual dispute with the supplier,
right? Yeah.
So that's why get it in writing, so that you got it in writing. Like, no, I got it in writing that you were giving me white flowers, you give me yellow, right? So you need to do something. So always
you can't do these things in just a conversational text messages. No. You need it physically in writing.
Exactly, particularly because if that then ended up in a situation where you wanted to take somebody to court or something like that, you need to have some form of
you need to be reading these agreements too, guys. Amount of girls that are messaging me going, oh, I didn't read it till afterwards, and they have, the supplier's got the right to, supply something else if they can't get hold of this, particularly like flowers.
Everything.
Exactly.
So it's in their contract. It is, and they're like, but they didn't tell me, and I went, but you should have read it.
And that's the same thing with insurance as well. Is when you buy an insurance, always read the terms and conditions. Like I said,
I know they're long. But they're to cover, ours have been developed over 23 years, and something comes up and we're like, we have to add that bit in.
Yes.
And it is long, but take that 5-10 minutes of reading it.
It is, And so when you purchase insurance, you've got a minimum of 2 weeks to do that, right? Because you can cancel any time and get a full refund.
Like a cooling off period.
So you've basically got a 14-day period where you can just take your time, read
Well, it depends. With us, they can't.
Yeah.
Because it's something that's gone into manufacturing straight away and stuff like that. But
exactly.
So government led legally, they can't with us. But I think
that's right. No, exactly correct. Yeah, with wedding insurance, any insurance, you've got a minimum of 2 week period. So it's the cooling off period. So that's supposed to be to give you time then to read through the documentation to make sure that the policy is right for you. And this is really important because, like I said just now, there are there's lots of providers in the marketplace again today. So there's probably about 10 different providers. But all the terms and conditions are slightly different, right? And some have more restrictions and more exclusions than others. So, for instance, some have higher restrictions on things like financial failure claims. So they won't cover, anything that occurs within, say, the first 60 days or the first 90 days, whereas we only, cover something within the first 30 days.
Wow,
so things like that, things like, the deposit one is a big one. So if you've paid any of your deposits prior to taking out insurance, make sure you read the terms and conditions because a lot of providers will not cover the payments deposit paid more than say 60 days before the purchase of the policy and things like that. So always read through the policy terms.
Is there any restrictions on the different types of ceremonies? Because we're having a lot of couples that will go and get married off in a registry office one day and then here, or they'll have two weddings.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very common these days.
Is there any restrictions on what they're not covered?
Can they go abroad still?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's 4 questions there, Welcome to Wedding Mayhem.
Yeah, exactly. No, so on the ceremony side, yeah, absolutely. So we cover all forms of ceremonies.
So it doesn't have to be a legal ceremony. No. It's still a wedding. It's still an event. Okay.
Yeah, that's all it needs to be. It can either be a legal ceremony or a religious ceremony, or just any form of ceremonial event or blessing that celebrates a marriage, effectively. So, so we try to cover as much as we can there. And obviously, like you said, it's very popular these days. Somebody will have a registry office, but then they want like a hand tie-in sort of like ceremony, something like that, in the forest somewhere. Yeah. So lots of different things of that. So we covered those. And then the second part of the question was what was I forgot the second.
I don't even know.
Don't ask her.
Oh, abroad. Weddings abroad.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah. We're one of the few providers that cover weddings abroad as well.
Cancelled flights, or actually we have to be a certain time frame.
Well, actually,
it's the airline's responsibility.
Let the man finish.
Sorry, I like it.
Have a cake.
You ask a question within a question.
This is interesting because so typically most people who provide cover for weddings abroad, they cover the weddings abroad, but they don't cover any travel aspects. So if you can't get to your wedding abroad because of there's a strike or an issue with the flight, you're not covered. So
what if you miss your flight?
Yeah. But
I think you still haven't answered my question.
But we're actually in fact we're the only company that provides cover for overseas weddings for that scenario. So you can take an overseas extension, which covers you for like things like missed departure. So for instance, you're stuck on the M25. Yeah. Can't get to Gatwick, and then you miss your flights, and so we cover things like that. We cover things like if your wedding dress is damaged in transport on the with the airline and things like that as well, and things like if you
don't be putting your wedding dress in the hold.
No, please. You have to.
I've had brides that actually buy seats for their wedding
Just
dresses. Please don't do that, because you will not have a good flight. You're constantly watching people over the overhead lockers.
Absolutely.
Overhead.
But yeah, no, it's overseas is very popular these days. So about 10% of our weddings are overseas.
I was going to say.
And are there any restrictions on the overseas weddings? Is it still treated?
Yeah, the only ones we restrict now are any countries that are under sort of like,
against the FC. Hang on, what are they called?
FC? Football club.
Oh my God, I said it about 50,000 times a day.
Foreign Commonwealth Office.
FCO. FCO, sorry. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yes.
Shut up. Honestly.
The UFC.
UFC. Oh, what did you say the other day? And it was terrible.
Whoa.
Oh, I've forgotten it. And you said to me, oh my God. Right. So, sorry, 10 seconds and then we'll go back to point. So, there's like the weight loss injections.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. She was
Ozempic, is it?
Yeah. Olaplex. It's the hair treatments you can get at a salon.
But before this happened, right, is that we were talking, I said, oh, yeah, the Olaplex,
Yeah, she couldn't even say it right.
No, but you still had a full-blown conversation with me. And then 10 minutes later you went, hang on, it's not Olaplex, you idiot.
Because I thought you were talking about your hair at the time.
She zones out when I talk to her.
Yeah,
anyway, back to you.
So, what are we price-wise? I know there's so much, and what's the from?
Yeah, well, this is the funny thing as well, because again, going back to when we talked about why you should take out insurance and things like that, right? Obviously covering the financial cost is one thing, but when you look at the cost of it, it's kind of a bit of a no-brainer, okay? Because our policy start from £38.99 for £6 grand to cover. And
you spend that at Burger King. You spend it. Oh, no, I spend it on her at
She
Burger
buys us
King.
lunch on Saturdays.
Was that Saturday?
I knew she
I'm not over it.
Lie.
I'm not over it.
I asked her for a chicken royale and a Coke, but just assuming it would be a meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, I've finished the meal. She gave me the bag. Yeah, burger, chips, drink. Done that. She was like, have you eaten my chips? She got herself chips. She had a salad. Just salad and chips.
From Burger King. Well.
Yeah, but the baby loved it.
No, but I wasn't going to say that.
She wouldn't let me replace them. What?
The lady that came in and I saved her with that belt.
Yeah.
£10 bargain. I went, well, that paid for your Burger King. But yeah, seriously, that, when you...
Yeah, the price is that. So
it's less than £1 a week.
When you consider
it's a coffee a day.
And when you consider it's like, so for instance, our most popular tier level, like I said, is anything between 20,000 and 26,000.
Yeah.
So say you take 20,000, that's cost £74.99. It's for £20,000 of the cover, right?
Wow.
So it's when you think,
this is your life saving.
Sorry.
Oh, it absolutely is, and it is the difference between, like I said, you imagine that like the example I gave you earlier on about the appendicitis, £46,000. If you weren't insured, that's 46 grand gone. And you ain't getting it back, I
mean, it's worth going to hospital to get your appendix out, isn't it?
So get the 46 grand back.
I said, I'd have it, whip it out.
It's not extra, it's money you've lost.
Yeah, but
isn't it? It's not a lottery win.
I'd still get married. I just wouldn't tell you.
Okay, so we know that. And then
what are the add-ons?
You're getting this.
Yeah, because we're on camera. 3 of them.
Yeah, we'll make sure this bit airs.
I can't see it.
So we have 10 tier levels. So that starts from 6,000 up to 100,000.
Yeah.
Like I said, so you can select the tier level cost.
I've got a squeaky nose now. I will be heard.
It's like a buzzer.
I know. Sorry, it's literally, I can't breathe.
Oh
I told you it'd be a shit show.
Oh my god, you'll laugh.
So good.
I'm making scared.
10 levels.
Yeah, so 10 levels of cover from 6,000 up to 100,000. And with that, then you can also add various different add-ons depending upon what type of wedding you're having. So, for instance, if you're having your wedding in a marquee, you can add on marquee cover. If you're the most popular add-on that we have is things like public liability. So the other thing as well to consider, and which is really important for a lot of your viewers and things, is if you're planning a wedding, check your venue contract, because many venues require you to have some form of public liability in place.
Every one of your suppliers should have a public liability insurance.
They should. That's right. Yeah, because that's right, and they should have their own public liability insurance to cover their. They're sort of like, what they're doing there at the event for you, and then obviously you typically then need to have your own public liability to cover if one of your guests breaks something, right? Or if
your magician sets your hair on fire, that's on their liability, not yours.
Exactly.
Has happened.
Loses your Rolex, have disappeared.
Yeah. We've got things like public liability, excess waiver as well. So if so the excess is quite low in anyway. So it's about £100 on most sections of cover.
Can you change the excess, or is it just set?
It's set at £100, but then you can pay 15 quid to sort of not have any excess. So it's kind of like
oh my god, that's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. So and then things like the overseas extension, COVID cover. So you can then tailor it as you want, basically. So, but you start off with the basic policy, and then if you need all those different sections of cover, then you can just add those on as you.
Am I covered for jumping out of an aeroplane in my wedding dress?
I don't think there's a specific section of cover that covers that, but we've had lots of things like that. We've had things like, am I covered in a hot air balloon? Am I covered to have llamas at my wedding? Am I covered to have all sorts of wonderful things?
Can we?
It depends on the circumstances. Not typically so there's no specific section that says we're going to cover llamas at your wedding, or we're going to cover your hot air balloon and things like that. So.
But you covered if the llamas bite you?
Not the llamas themselves, no. It would probably come under the liability of the llama owner.
It's not going to cost you any money to get bitten by a llama, though, is it? You just go to hospital.
Well, if I have to go to hospital before I get married...
No. Well, not actually, because it depends on the situation, right? So let's say, the circumstances are...
What if the llama bit my...
Hang on, Sharon!
My appendicitis out. Appendix.
Which, who knows? I don't know much about llamas.
What if? What was I going to say? Probably the burning question that people probably think they would be covered for. Husband or wife don't want to be with you anymore. Doesn't turn up. Yeah. Where do people stand with that?
No, so that is the number one exclusion on all wedding insurance policy. We don't cover disinclination. It's called, we class as disinclination. So
what?
Disinclination. So
that's easy for you to say.
That's a better way of saying we split up. We've had a disinclination.
Yeah. So we get that. Unfortunately, that is quite common because normally, quite often someone will take out the policy and they just think they cover for everything, right?
Yeah.
So then they go, right, well, I've just found out my partner's cheating on me, or we're not getting married anymore. So, I want to. It's like, unfortunately,
it was a question that came in.
Yeah.
Just found out 2 days before the wedding.
Yeah, it happens, and it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had all sorts of things like that, unfortunately. But it's the number one thing that you can't. It's impossible to cover it. It's one of those situations. It's like everybody would take out a policy if they knew that was going to happen, right? And then all of a sudden,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, so
and if it covered a new man as well, it'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
On the internet.
Yeah. One thing we do provide though is professional counselling in that scenario.
Do you?
Tell us about this. Really?
Yeah. No. So there's a section of the policy which is professional counselling. So if something happens and you can't proceed with your wedding, then
so you get that at least.
Yeah, if you
That's
needed to have
nice.
some help, and there's that section to cover as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Oh, wait, is that if a supplier pulls out on you, or
No,
if
that's
this is-
mainly to do with the
for that.
scenario.
I was gonna
if
say,
God forbid, like
For being alone.
let's say, for instance, I don't know, sadly something happened, to your partner, you couldn't get married, and then you're feeling, you could have some professional counselling on that basis.
Is that unusual?
It is, it is. I mean, it's not
Because I've never heard of an insurance company that do that.
No, I mean, we were just trying to think of ways that we could add some value back into the product as well, and to provide more.
That's
so
really
in
nice.
that scenario, like, so for instance, like you said, we can't cover your cancellation of your wedding because of your partner's cheated on you, but if you're feeling really bad about it and you want to go speak to somebody, we can help like that.
It gives a bit more personal care to the policy.
So
I like that.
exactly.
You
So
support them. not
exactly
financially,
that. But like I said, it's one of those things where it depends on the various different sections of cover. How far you want to go in terms of like what you need cover for and that type of stuff. So you can have weird and wonderful weddings these days that you can plan, and whether it's in a teepee in the middle of the forest or whether it's like in a traditional venue and things like that. So you can tailor the policy exactly as you want. And then, like you said, if you during the period you go, actually my budget's just increased and I need to add an extra £5,000 to cover that, you can make those changes as you go along and things like that as well.
Fantastic. Talk about cheating games and stuff like that. We've got a game to play. I'm going to bring that on. I was just going to ask you a question. I completely forgot about it.
Thank God.
Oh my God, what was it?
I was just going to say, what has been, if you can say it, like your most bizarre request or claim, or just like something you've been asked to pay out or had to pay out, and you're like, oh my God, like that's happened.
We've had lots of like the llama one was quite weird, and the
I know,
hot
but
air
that's-
balloon.
The llamas are
Yeah, but
really
it's
popular.
someone's imagination.
Farm
very
animals,
strange.
really popular at weddings now.
It is. So there's a few of those, and then we've had things like, I don't know, like I remember once where they wanted a claim because they found rats at their wedding.
Oh my God, I'd die.
Things like that.
It's my biggest phobia.
Yeah.
It's my biggest prank on her.
So
If you ever done that, I'd never talk to you
I
again.
did in the car park when you first started.
There actually was one there. Yeah.
oh gosh. Yeah.
She whacked me.
Yeah.
Spin that wheel.
Oh wow. Okay.
But sure, that's down to the venue, isn't it?
Yeah.
It would be.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be something that's covered typically.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting you get things like that, Or,
There's a rat in my venue, what am I gonna do?
That's even better when you've got a BB cold.
Roster in me. Switch it.
Switch it.
Ask us a question.
Oh.
I thought that would be...
No, it's the other one. You always do that. Flip it.
Oh.
Yeah, so you ask us a question.
Switch it. Okay, so, let me think. Well, what's the similar to the question you just had, what's the most bizarre sort of situation that you can recall in your business?
Oh, there's some weird people around. And
I don't know what I can say.
what about the one that wasn't even getting married? She just came to buy a dress in the hope that she'd find someone.
Yeah.
And she did in Vegas.
Oh, really?
No, you got it wrong.
Well, I didn't work there then, so I know about what you told me, so get your facts right.
It was, she just turned up, didn't have an appointment, but I was free. And she said, God has told me that I'm getting married and I need to buy a wedding dress. And I went, right, okay, but I got talking to her, and she'd been in a really abusive relationship. She was also part of a cult. And she's managed to escape, and it was all very bizarre. But I actually did send her away, and it was. But then she found Christianity, and she. It was a way out for her, so she kept going to church, and then they said, your husband will appear. And she came back, I think a week later. She went, no, it's definitely happening. I need a wedding dress. And I went, right, okay. And I did it on a payment plan as well. I thought, there's no hope of me getting this money. No hope. And do you know what? She was fantastic. Week in, week out, she paid. And she came in, she went, oh my God, Sharon, disaster's happened. And I'm like, oh, here we go. But dress is paid by that time, dress is in. And
she's like, not my problem.
she was a nanny to a couple, and they were going to New York to live. And they asked her to go with them. And she went, what am I going to do? Because my husband's here. They've told me my husband's, about to appear. And I'm like, well, you just got to go. You got to go with the flow sort of thing. She goes, I pack a dress for her. She had it shipped ahead. In fact, the family had it shipped for her. And I lost contact with her 6 months later. She rang me. She went, I'm getting married. Oh. And I'm like, you're kidding me? She stepped off the plane.
Yeah.
And met somebody in the luggage reclaim.
No way.
Chatting. And that was about 8-9 years ago. And they're still married and they've got kids.
Wow.
So weird, isn't it?
Is weird.
Isn't it weird?
Oh,
it's weird.
But in a good way.
But in a good way, whether she manifested it or not.
the cult bit.
but there was lots more to that story. I can't really, go through because we're still in touch now. In fact, she loves the show. Hi. But she did appear that she was off her rocker, but she actually wasn't.
And the funny changing room one that you had to ask to leave.
Why am I telling all the stories?
No, the one she's just having a feel up in the change room. She didn't. Do you remember?
Yeah, she was.
I wasn't there then, and Sharon had to ask her to leave.
Yeah, so she came on her own. Mum was apparently on her way, and then we normally change the girls, but we always say, "Do you want us to change, or you can slip into the dress, and then we will come in and then zip you up and everything because you want it to look nice and everything, course, and you've got to respect people's privacy."
Yeah.
But she was taking forever. Like, we're talking 20 minutes. And I kept saying, are you ready? Are you ready? And we have a no phone policy in the boutique. So I thought, you're just taking photographs of the dresses while you're in them and no intentions of buying from the boutique. Yeah. So I just kept saying, ready. And she went, I'll tell you when I'm ready. She was getting angry when I was asking her.
You interrupted her.
And in the end, I'm like... I'm coming in now, and I come in, and she was stark naked, and she was just touching herself in the mirror.
Oh gosh!
And
that's why she was getting angry. She kept getting off course.
And I went, no, you have to put your clothes on now and leave. And then her mum then turned up in a flurry. Oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. And I went, I'm really sorry, but I've had to ask her to leave. And her mum just looked at me, and she went, oh no, not again. And I'm like, I said, has she done this before? She went, yeah. And I went, she had all her clothes off. She went, I know, it's a problem. And so she just hustled her out. Anyway, it turns out we've got our own little group of bridal boutiques all around the country where we all help each other out. If a bride's, if there's a company gone bust, or we'll find her a dress or find her an avenue to get her dress. And and I went, look, just heads up, girls. I don't want anybody to be in that position. Luckily, it was me and not my girls that were put in that position.
Locked up and gone home.
And and they went, is her name this? And I went, yeah. They went, I've had her. Oh my God, she's booked in with me. So she was doing the circuit.
Oh, is she really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Each their own.
There you go. That was two stories for one.
Yeah, that's great.
There we go. Give it another spin. Let's see if you can get one.
What are you going to get next?
I bet going to land on the same thing.
Everybody loves to spin the wheel, don't they?
We
go
can't
again.
give you any more.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I can't give all my secrets out on one show.
There you go. Oh.
Words of wisdom. Oh, what a good one for you.
What would you say to a couple getting married?
Don't do it.
Listen, he's on number 2.
Get insurance.
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, I always say when you're choosing your suppliers, which I think is really important, is to do your due diligence on your suppliers.
100%.
Because it's amazing. Like I said, going back to the whole people doing stuff on Facebook and Messenger.
You wouldn't go out into the street and go, here's £5,000.
Exactly.
Bye.
Exactly. So always do as much due diligence as you can, and you can do lots, right? So for instance, if you're dealing with a company like a limited company, you can go into the company's house, you can get hold of their company's accounts, so you can see if they're financially stable.
If they're filing on time, that's always a telltale.
Exactly. Or if they're already in some form of voluntary arrangement and things like that, So do as much research on the companies that you can, reviews, all that type of stuff. Always get stuff in writing. Always, like I said, get invoices, receipts, contracts. And then, once you started to pay anything towards your wedding and you got the dates booked and things, obviously get your insurance. Because obviously, as soon as you
it's a no-brainer. £38
from 30, exactly. It's it's a no-brainer. It's probably going to be the least spend you're going to have for your wedding. It really is the lowest cost. And then you don't have to worry about that. Then that's set. It's done. It's it's there. So, but those are the main things I would say. And the other thing as well is which is a good tip is, if you can, where possible, pay on credit card, because you are then covered under Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act for breach of contract. So, for instance, if there's a breach of contract, if a supplier doesn't deliver a service to you that they were contracted to,
charge back,
and you've paid back on your card, then you can actually.
And it's instant money then. You get they charge back straight away. It's straight into your account.
Quickly. Yeah, exactly. So those things I think will then put you in the best possible position going forward, and can cover all the different types of scenarios, So that's probably the main thing.
That's fantastic. So we have questions from the public.
Oh, okay.
Let's do a few of these, and we have no idea what's in these. So here we go.
Oh.
It's all gone very quiet. Oh my god. I've got, do brides go suit shopping?
Yeah, some brides do.
I would.
Yeah.
I've had when we used to do men's hire, I had a groom in that was colourblind.
Oh, right.
And he was picking out everything, and it was before the days where you could mix all your colours. Everything was uniformed. I'm like, you sure this is okay? And he went, yeah. And then he was like, oh, I am a bit colourblind. And I'm like, how a bit? And he went, oh, quite a lot. And I went, should we ring your bride to be? And he went, yeah, that might be a good idea. So I got her on the phone, and we're talking 20 odd years ago, so we didn't have camera phones or anything like that. And she went, I'll pop down. He didn't tell me he was going, so I would 100%.
Yeah,
because I think bride goes full pelt, don't they?
Yeah,
like, they've already got it planned in their head.
Yeah.
So if you're going out and then you're paying for stuff and you can't change it, then you've wasted your money.
Absolutely, 100%.
Do you cover is suits covered under the insurance?
Yep. So we got a whole section of cover which is ceremony attire, so it covers bridal attire and suits and higher suits.
Fantastic. So you can cover the wedding dress as well.
Yep, we cover all that. We cover, in fact, it's loss, theft, or damage to the dress as well. So, for instance, God forbid. We have had quite a few claims in that regard as well, actually.
Really?
So where we've had damage.
Are they covered for like their wedding gifts?
They are. Yeah, same thing.
Do you remember we had that bride?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still don't believe it. Wedding gifts and money went missing.
This one sounds like I'm the bride.
Oh.
Couldn't be more fitting. My friend, the bride, asked me to get 10 packs of ice on the way to the reception. With boobs. I don't really get why that's on it, but it's funny. But what was the ice for? Maybe she had.
Yeah, but if you're doing dry hire, you do need. You run out of stuff. We ran out on the second wedding. We had dry hire, and then we sent out for like more booze than that.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Good party.
Yeah, good tip. Good party.
This one
is
love the show, guys. Please give me some top tips on walking up the aisle. I am freaking out, Tori.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? It's like, you've not walked up the aisle yet, but...
No, you've done it 3 times, so you do this.
The expert.
She glides.
You don't have to walk up.
No.
I would walk up. If you're that worried, I'd walk up with your partner.
Yeah.
Walking together.
Yeah.
Or have a drink. Go halfway and then get your partner
back round.
And then get your partner to come and collect you.
Yeah.
Halfway.
Yeah. Nice.
There's no better of having your right hand man.
Yes.
Or woman holding on to you.
Why not? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can do it anyway these days, can't you? It doesn't have to be the traditional sort of like the bride walking up the aisle by herself or with her father or anything like that. You can do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like everyone watches the bride, but I feel like before the bride gets in, everyone stares at the groom, don't they? And the groom's just got to stand there like sweating and nervous.
Stood there for 15
Never
minutes
actually
before,
give them a
sweating.
At least minimum 15 minutes. But
And I tell you what we're seeing more of now is actually brides walking up the aisle on their own, particularly on like Married at First Sight. Australia, we're seeing most of those have walked up on their own.
Hiding behind their bouquets, it kills me.
I know. Yeah, please, if you're nervous, don't do this.
Yeah,
it's got to be here. What is it?
The whole dress. Either bush to bush.
Pubes, not boobs.
Pubes, not boobs.
Hold it here.
Garden on the garden or something.
Garden on the garden.
Something like that.
So yeah, or just have a really stiff drink before you go up.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, hide a
tequila before you go.
Hide a flask inside your bouquet
or a flask.
Yeah.
I'm Cornish. It's flask.
So she says.
Bath, not bath. Right. Oh, no, so I've another one. Yeah, that's one. Right, my brother who was best man let the cat out the bag when he talked about the bride and groom who met each other. The timeline did not match up. They had told people, and in fact, that both were unfaithful to their partners, one of which was a friend at the wedding. She stormed off, and they have never spoken again. Anon, as you may know her.
Oh.
Drama. So obviously they were having an affair.
Wow.
But told people that they met afterwards.
Oh gosh.
And then her brother then let the cat out of the bag.
Oh,
there you go.
Brother.
Brief.
Yeah.
Tell people.
I think we've had this. Well, we know the thing. Be careful of candles at your wedding. My friend's bouquet. Oh, bouquet. Caught fire as she walked up the aisle. That's another thing as well. Stay away from naked flames.
Oh, yes.
Normally it's the train on the candles on the aisle.
Yes.
And the veil.
But if you've got like like fake flowers, or you've got a non-flower.
Where does the fire come from? From the bouquet?
But did you not see that
catch fire?
Do you see that girl on TikTok that had like she had like feathers and ferns and stuff like that?
Where's the flame come from?
No, but she was walking like this, like the bouquet was down here, so she was
dusting.
She was casually walking up, so she didn't have it here or here, so she was walking down like this, and she swept her bouquet onto the candle. So then she didn't realise because it was down here and it was on fire. Oh, no. People were running behind her. She had no aware of it because it was down here. Oh, so yeah, top tip. Did you get another one?
I didn't.
Oh, you did.
What would you recommend for best shoes for wedding?
Comfy. And if you've got like a dress that's got tulle or it's like a netty type dress, don't get like little diamantes or jewels on your shoes because it catches and it'll rip your dress.
That's a good.
Or snug it.
Very good tip.
Get smooth shoes.
You need 3 pairs of shoes for your wedding.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
We actually had.
You say that and pants.
My wife had flip-flops for everybody at the.
Yeah. That's the best thing.
Yeah.
The only problem is this is the same as like flip-flops on destination weddings. Yeah. You are flipping and you are flopping, and your dress at the back is catching.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's ruined by then. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to feel, I'm dragging the dress. Yeah. So I would say 3 pairs of shoes. You want the pair that are the glamorous.
Yeah.
You then want to slip into another pair for your first dance, so you're a bit more comfy. And then it's just sod it shoes at the end. And also, talking about insurance, this is your insurance that if a pair break, if your heel goes...
He's like, actually, we don't cover you for that.
Yeah. But if you were to, we talked about heels going down the decking.
Yeah.
If you pull your heel out, you've got backup shoes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, 3 pairs of everything.
Yeah.
That's
3 husbands.
Good tip.
Thank you for coming on.
No, it's been a pleasure.
I've learnt loads, and it's
really
a no-brainer why you would not take out this insurance.
Well, we like to think so.
It has to be done.
I think if everybody saw what we saw every day,
yes,
then it's
and it is every day you're seeing it.
Every single day.
Yeah, are you seeing it more because of our climate at the moment, or?
We see it every day. I mean, obviously, because we are the largest in the UK today. Like I said, we cover probably 25,000 weddings a year, so we just get a lot of volume. So we see it because we have a lot of volume. But yeah, every single day, financial failure claims, that's the number one,
is
by
it?
the way, yeah. So
and we're talking about venues, suppliers going bust.
Suppliers.
Okay.
If you think about it, logistically, you've got tens of thousands of wedding suppliers in the UK, and inevitably every single day some of those are going to go out of business. It just happens.
And to be fair to these businesses, sometimes they don't even know when they're taking these weddings on.
No, absolutely, absolutely. No, and it's I don't think anybody does it, purposely or anything like that. It's just they're in a very difficult situation. So and what we saw, through COVID and things like that, it was a cash flow issue, right? It was a massive issue, right? Yeah. Because particularly the ones who were then trying to accommodate, people who were affected because of that cash flow was then. they were sort of like honouring the bookings in the future, but then they'd had the cash years before, so then they had this period of time where they had no cash.
Yeah, and this is why venues and that will and suppliers will have a non-cancellation policy.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that money comes in, they will spend it.
Yeah.
We do the same. As soon as we've had our sales in, we're like, actually, we can go and buy this. This is our budget for that. So
particularly in your case, because obviously you're making specific dresses for people, and obviously you're tailoring it right to that individual. So once somebody's paid for that item, that's it. It can't be reused for somebody else.
It goes straight into production.
Yeah.
So and you can't. It isn't Doris at the back on a singing sewing machine. It's a mass produced in a factory. So you can't just send Doris up to go and get it off the production line. It just doesn't work that way. So
makes sense.
We're going to put links on all our posts and everything. You already linked on our Instagram already and everything.
Definitely get Wedding Insurance.
Definitely. But where can into this camera? Why should we insure with you? And where can we find you?
Well, lots of different reasons. Like I said, the two biggest ones that you have to consider is cancellation, curtailment and rearrangement. And that could be due to issues with the venue or a serious illness within the wedding participants or a close relative. And then the other one is financial failure of wedding service suppliers, which happens more frequently than we care to imagine. And you can find out more information by going onto the website, which is www.wedinsure.co.uk. And all the information's on there. We've got buying guides, lots of information. You can download all the policy documents before you purchase, so you can read through that before you purchase. All of the tier levels and the pricing is also on the website before you purchase as well, so you can get all the information there.
Fantastic. I love it that you're very transparent.
And he's Welsh. That's why the girl from Traitors pretends to be Welsh, because it's the most trusted accent.
Is it?
Yeah. So I trust you. I'm going to take it out and I'm not even getting married.
We'll put all the links on all our social media. Message us if you want to get in contact, but just go and insure your wedding. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, there's no reason not to, because you can say I can't afford it because you're paying 20 grand or something.
Yeah. It's a Burger King meal. And chips.
Yeah.
We'll see you all next week. Bye.